Good evening and welcome to the Italian Impact Podcast. I am your host, Stefano Mancini, and as always, I'd like to thank you, my loyal listeners from all over the world who are tuning in and downloading and streaming this. That is awesome. You are awesome. And I'm always appreciative of the fact that somebody takes time out of their life to listen to little old me. And I hope what you're really enjoying is these wonderful guests that I keep getting on the show. You know, Don Alico I had on last episode. Fantastic guest. The guy's been playing for, probably 80 years, still out there performing. He was a wonderful guest, a lot of history there. I was just really honored and I hope you enjoyed the show. But what a great personality. And, to have guests like that on the show is just wonderful. And as always, I like to do my standard administrivia stuff. Reminder, if you haven't watched the documentary Fedeltà, it is available on Amazon, so please go check it out and come support the families. Again, 11 September 2025. If you're streaming this in 2026, you've missed it. But don't worry, I'm sure there's something else going on that I will get you out to. But please come on out and join us in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, as we welcome about 30 family members from the prisoners. They're going to come out, they're going to visit the chapel, they're going to have services, and you're going to get a chance to meet these folks. And some of them were in the documentary, so you can talk to them, get their experiences. It's just a fantastic opportunity. And last but not least, I must always refer you to the fact that I am Il Consolato Onorario d'Italia a Pittsburgh, the honorary consulate of Italy here in Pittsburgh, representing the Italian government, obviously representing the interests of Italian citizens. So you are always welcome to come visit me. I am a volunteer, though. I do not get paid for that position, but I do try and keep semi-regular hours in my downtown office in 304 Ross Street, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Come on down Mondays and Friday mornings, and you'll probably find me there drinking a coffee. And again, if you always want to reach out, you can go out to the website or just email us at pittsburgh.onorario@esteri.it. So again, look forward to trying to help you as much as I can. But again, keep in mind, it's an honorary consulate position. Even though I am appointed by the Italian government, there are limits to what I can do for you. All right, enough administrivia. You're not here for that noise. You're here for a wonderful guest, and I've got one this time. Fantastic guy. Starting to get to know him. As I get to know him, I'm actually impressed because he's already done a lot more than I'm going to ever do. So please help me welcome Nick Ferraro to the show. Nick, welcome to the show.
Hey, Steve. Boy, that's nice words there. Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it.
No. I tell you what, but before we jumped on, you're telling me the things you do. And I knew a little bit about you. I always try and do my homework, but I've got to start. And by the way, folks, before we have these episodes, we always chat a little bit. And one of the first things that Nick comes out, and he says, as a former entertainer, as a former Elvis Presley impersonator. And by coincidence, I'm saying, hey, I'm laughing because right before I called Nick, me and my engineer, Joe Hale, I was sitting there doing an Elvis impersonation for him. So I just thought, man, was there ever meant to be a conversation on Elvis impersonators? But Nick, again, welcome to the show, brother.
Yep, thanks, Steve. I appreciate it, man.
By the way, do you do the actual Elvis voice?
Well, I'm actually retired now. I've done it. For
dag nabbit. I wanted to hear it.
I've done it for about 35 years and accomplished a lot with it. But I always kept true to who I am, my roots, family. So when I did the show, it was always a tribute. It wasn't. I wasn't up there saying "Thank you very much" and stuff like that. It was. We did real well. Had so much of a great opportunity to, at one point, open up for a lot of oldie bands like the Coasters, the Drifters, the Platters, the Marvelettes.
I know every one of those bands. That's awesome.
Bobby Rydell.
Now, for what it's worth, Nick, I didn't think you were that old.
I'm almost afraid to tell you how old I am, but I'm going to tell you.
Okay. That's your call.
I'm 63.
What? I had no idea.
Yeah, I've done a lot.
Man, I'm impressed. I thought you were much younger than that. So
I'm very young at heart, brother. Very young at heart.
Well, a lot of people like to say I'm a child still, so I don't know if that's the same thing or what.
Well, I get reminded of that from my wife many times. So she goes, "My God, I'm raising another child." That's what she said.
No, that's awesome. But I won't focus on Elvis because you know what? As you and I were talking, you're a successful actor, a writer. We're going to talk about some of the famous artists, and interestingly enough, we'll talk about what your work with Bruce Springsteen and the film. But you mentioned a lot of groups just right there. You're kind of had a chance to kind of rub elbows with some, maybe they're not famous in the 2000s, but at some point these were, the top of the charts artists, so, just kind of starting off right there, before we get into your background, that must be something, special to say, well, like, yeah, I've worked with these guys, I've worked with those guys, I was actually able to do this, just generally feel, general kind of thoughts, how do you feel about your career at large, just knowing that you've bumped elbows and worked with some very big names?
Well, I guess I'm very thankful, first off, of my upbringing, and that grounded me in a lot of ways of about respect, being humble, thankful, those type of things, and a lot of things have happened in my life that I'm so thankful. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't. A lot of it wasn't because of this or that about me. It was just because the people around me, things that happened, I got lucky or whatever. So I was very fortunate. And when I did end up on stage with Bruce Springsteen, we did All Shook Up in Blue Suede Shoes in my Elvis suit, as a tribute to Elvis. That alone, then I guess it was 7 years later, they came out with a documentary called Springsteen and I, which focused on a lot of Springsteen fans and how they interacted with Bruce. And they did a whole big thing on me on stage with him. And Bruce actually named me the Philly Elvis. And that's where that came from. Springsteen gave me the name. And so because of that moment, and the movie was a worldwide movie, I ended up getting booked in England. I was in England for 10 days entertaining, and then was asked to participate in a lot of things that went on in Jersey, Asbury Park, and that was like Bruce related, and met with Max Weinberg, his drummer, and a lot of other, Gene Cornish from the Rascals before he passed, and Gary U.S. Bonds. And anyway, just a lot of it's just so much fun. So much stuff has happened, and again, it was by luck, this and that. Just so happy with it all.
Well, that's you know what we're gonna come back to that because, like I said, I still think about some of these names that you're throwing, and by the way, it's funny you say Gary U.S. Bonds because one of my first I used to listen to oldies. I still do on occasion, and I remember having this tape, and I saw that name. Probably, they were talking 35, 40 years ago when I bought that. This is obviously well after he was, in his prime. But I just remember looking at that Gary U.S. Bonds. That was his name. And I think about these names that you're throwing around, and I remember when they were all new to me. And and even then, they're look at these people in the late 50s, early 60s. But I don't think people realize how big they were at one time. And I think that that is the kind of, that's kind of the specialness of someone like a Bruce Springsteen that, here he is, probably 40, 50 years later, and he is still a name, So, I just always find it kind of neat to run into these people whenever I can. I obviously haven't performed at the level you have, but I just think it's kind of neat. But I want to go back now because let's talk about that because now whatever your early life, it leads you into this path where you're performing with a lot of different musicians, very very famous musicians, obviously at the very top of the pyramid at one point in their careers. When you were younger, though, talk about your roots. How did you grow up? Family? How far removed are you from Italy, and what was it that put you on this trajectory to become an actor and a writer?
So I was born and raised in South Philly, and my grandfather was born in Calabria, Italy, at a town called Cosenza in Calabria. And he came over from Italy with my great-grandfather, his father, and my grandfather's siblings. He had a brother, Raphael, and a sister. And then his father went back to Italy and brought his mom, and then they were here. And then he came over when he was 14, my grandfather, and that he met his wife, my grandmom, and she was from Italy as well, and then came over here. So growing up in South Philly, they were both my grandparents. They loved music, and I remember my grandfather singing the Italian songs. My grandmother was just so high-spirited, so great-hearted. And then my father always had a record player, a turntable, right in the living room, and he would always play Dean Martin, Mario Lanza, Frank Sinatra, all the Italian singers. And my father would start a talent show on our porch in South Philly, and we would play records, and I would sing as the record was playing. So growing up, I always had that. It wasn't a push, but it was around me all the time.
Now, but let me ask you, because you know what, I will not repeat wait, I don't know if you said your age while we were recording or not recording. I can't remember anymore, Nick. I don't even know what I had for breakfast, but I want to ask you something.
I had 63.
But I want to go back, because that means you're born in the 60s now. So some of these records of some of the folks you're playing, you later go on to play with, I'm assuming, beyond the Italian-American, singers. So I'm sure that your father probably played the Platters and the Drifters, and you were probably listening not far removed. What was it like then to go later on to say, hey, when I grew up, I was listening to you guys, and now here I am performing with you guys?
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, especially Bobby Rydell, who's actually from the neighborhood of South Philly, and always hearing about Bobby Rydell, and then being able to open up for him. And then later on, which was a crazy story, I ended up sitting at the bar with him for an hour, just talking, him and I, which was just incredible. And then, the thing with Bruce Springsteen, been following Bruce since 1975 and 1980, actually the night John Lennon passed away, December 8th, 1980, was the first time I saw Bruce. It was at the Spectrum. And I'll never forget it. When he came on stage, he opened up with Born to Run. And I remember sitting there, and I envisioned, and this is a God's honest truth, I envisioned me on stage with him singing at the Spectrum in 1980. And what was it? Almost 30 years later to the day, I actually was on stage with Bruce at the Spectrum doing those songs. So that was pretty crazy.
Well, I guess it must be just surreal to think about that. And I'll kind of use a sports analogy. Some athletes get older, and all of a sudden you'll see a picture of a kid when he's 10, 12 years old, getting an autograph from a professional athlete who's young in their career, and all of a sudden, 10 years later, they're playing with them. So it's the same kind of, I suspect it's a lot of the same feelings. Just go, wow, here I am, playing with these guys, and I was listening to them.
That is, man, you are spot on 100%. Freshman year, high school, 75, listening to Bruce for the first time. And then sophomore, my buddy had got a car and we're driving around. I think we still had 8-tracks, if people know even what an 8-track is, listening to Springsteen and then years later, sharing the stage with him and saying, it was just crazy. It's really crazy.
Now, Nick, let's keep going. Let's keep going though, because so now you grew up in South Philly, and a lot of what I find out is that a lot of what I'm going to call successful artists, whether it's music, whether it's writing, whether it's acting, there's some kind of encouragement from the family. You talked about your father used to set up little talent shows, and you guys would sing and practice. Was that kind of then at that point you said that this is the path I'm taking, or was it still that's not what I thought I'd actually end up doing though?
Well, in grade school, I was in a couple plays, and I was always the type of kid, I wouldn't quite say I was class clown, but I was lighthearted, And I was just that type of kid. And I remember it was my grandfather who would always say all the time, in his broken English, Nicky, one day I'm going to see you on the television. One day I'm going to see you on the television. Like, he used to say that all the time just because of just how I was, like for one Halloween, I don't even remember how old I was, maybe 10 years old or whatever. I got dressed up as Charlie Chaplin. And my father drove me to my grandparents in South Philly on Halloween to surprise my grandfather, and we knocked on the door, and I was there with Charlie Chaplin. He got such a kick out of it, my grandfather, so I think the encouragement really mostly came from my grandfather.
All right, folks, I'm going to be right back after these commercial break with Nick Ferraro, because I'm going to jump into some of his work, because Nick's actually an accomplished actor and writer, and I definitely have one film that he did in particular that him and I were briefly talking about. So be right back after these messages.
Ciao, Chrissy. Your Italian got so much better. Brava.
Grazie. It's because I learned the best way possible.
How so?
Well, I learned that with apps, grammar books, and even YouTube videos, I could only get so far. I had to immerse myself. I noticed I did best when I was in Italy visiting family. That's where my level really soared.
And wow, did it work?
Thanks. I became much more confident, fast. That's why I created Footsteps Through Time. It's an Italian language experience. You don't just take Italian classes, you immerse yourself in a real Italian village. With lots of fun activities and excursions, it's life-changing.
I see. So, no more boring grammar, impersonal apps, just real conversations, real culture, and delicious food, of course.
Exactly. I'm so excited about this. Learn Italian by actually becoming part of the local community for a week and living it. So if you've been dreaming of Italy and the language, check out Footsteps Through Time in Italy.com. Book now and join the experience.
Andiamo!
Thanks to Greater Pittsburgh Travel. For any of your travel needs, let Tom and the team at Greater Pittsburgh Travel know, and they'll take care of you. For more information, call 412-331-2244 or visit their website at www.greaterpittsburghtravel.com. Did your parents or grandparents ever talk about the Vietnam War? The Hardest Year, a love story and letters during the Vietnam War, is an accurate portrayal of what life was like during the 1960s, a time of the draft, equal rights, and the anti-war movement. Follow newlyweds through their letters as they navigate 1 year of the war an ocean apart. The Hardest Year by Carol and William Wagner is available now wherever books are sold. And we want to thank the Calabria Club of Pittsburgh. If you're interested in learning more, you can find their contact information on Facebook at Calabria Club of Pittsburgh. Again, thanks Domenica and the team at the Calabria Club of Pittsburgh for your support. And we want to thank La Scuola d'Italia Galileo Galilei, the only nonprofit school in Pittsburgh endorsed by the Italian Consulate. If you're interested in learning Italian or have your children being immersed in the Italian culture and language, be sure to give them a call at 412-404-7070. And that's La Scuola d'Italia Galileo Galilei. We'd also like to thank Chris Gonzalez from the Knights of Columbus. If you have any questions about joining the Knights of Columbus, reach out to Chris Gonzalez at 412-605-9074. Hello, Bucko fans. This is Steve Stefano Mancini, international award-winning filmmaker and host of the award-winning Italian Impact podcast. Join us in celebrating the Italian community on August 23rd as the Pirates take on the Colorado Rockies. This special offer includes an exclusive Pirates co-branded Italian hat and loaded value, good to use on concessions and merchandise on the day of the game. Also, a portion of each ticket will be donated to a local Italian charity. So come experience a unique blend of sports, culture, and community during Italian Heritage Night at PNC Park. Grazie, ci vediamo. The San Rocco Foundation will be celebrating their 100th celebration. Our celebration will be August 8th, 9th, and 10th at St. Francis Cabrini Parish Campus, Mary Queen of Saints. Events start at 4 p.m. each day. On Sunday, August 10th, Mass will begin at 9 a.m. at St. Titus Church in Aliquippa. There will be a procession immediately following. For more information, check out their website at www.sanroccofoundation.org. Again, that's www.sanroccofoundation.org. All right, Nick. Welcome back, folks. And Nick, one of the things that you sent me right away was the confession. So before I kind of jump into what inspired that, I want to talk about, when When did it really start with the acting and the writing? Like, when did you say, you know what, this is the path? Because that's a very distinct path from, being an Elvis impersonator and ending up on stage with Bruce Springsteen. So how did, how and when did the acting bug take over? And then how did you get transitioned then to end up being on the stage with Bruce Springsteen?
So the acting and the entertaining was simultaneously. Uh, I actually went to college to take up acting. I took acting classes. I wanted to be an actor, and then things had it where right out of college, I pretty much got married and had a child right away, and my life sort of got away from the acting career. However, I started to entertain, and actually, that's when I first started doing a tribute to Elvis. There was a local talent show in the neighborhood in Philly, and I just grabbed some musicians and I said, "Hey, there's a talent show. The winner gets $500. Let's enter it. What do you want to do?" And we sat around and talked. I said, "Let's do an Elvis tribute." And that's how that all started. So I called ourselves the King and Company at the time. This was 1980, I want to say 86 or something like that, 87. And we entered in the contest. We kept advancing, and we won the contest. And people were like, "Man, where are you playing next? Where are you playing?" And we're like, "I'm not really a singer. We just got this together just for the contest." I was like, "You would actually like come see us?" They're like, "Yeah." So that's how it all started. So we started playing in the Philly area, and then it kept growing and growing. And then I was with the Fabulous Heartbreak Band in the 1990, and then that's when the Fabulous Heartbreak Band, we did a tribute to Elvis, and there was a girl in the band, Anna. We did a tribute to Patsy Cline. Is when we started playing on cruise ships, and we opened up for, as I mentioned, the Coasters, the Drifters, and all of them throughout the 90s. So, but the acting was always like in the back of my mind then. And I started to get back into acting, taking acting classes, did a couple commercials. And it wasn't until I think it was 2015 or something, really, that late, when I was in my first movie, Backfire, which I had a principal role, which actually you can pull it up on Amazon. I play a hitman in the mob, and that's called Backfire. It's on Amazon. It's a good movie.
Now let me ask you. Let me go back up here a little, because you graduate from school, you get married, you have a kid. Were you worried of like, hey, how am I going to feed the family? Like, was there a point where you're like, is this going to pay off, or do I have to get a 9-to-5 job?
Well, any musician will tell you that's not a A-list musician that you need a second job. You're not going to live on
Right.
entertainment, and so I did. So I had professional jobs, and then I would raise a family. I had 2 children, and then doing it all, being with the band and working and the family and everything. And you needed to supplement the income for sure.
Now the acting. So now you got your first gig. We said what, 2015, or what was your first? What was the first year you actually got a no kidding, I'm on TV or in a film?
Well, I did a little bit of commercial work, and I was on TV, but I don't consider. As a matter of fact, one commercial they had me dress up as Elvis. I think.
The irony.
It was about a diner or something. I don't know. And I was in the diner eating, and I said a few words, and but I don't consider that.
No, but it starts building the resume, though. You can say I was in multiple commercials.
Yeah, it does. So it was. I auditioned for the movie Backfire, and I got the role. And as I said, I play a hitman in that, and that was really, that was in theaters first, and then it's been on. I think it was at Netflix, and then it moved to Amazon. So that was really like the big thing. And then from that, I was in a bad accident. It was 2017 or 18, where I really banged up my left foot. My fibula bone broke in half. My tibia bone almost busted out of my foot, whatever. And after the operation, a couple of days, I came home and I said to myself, I'm not going to let this be a negative. I'm going to make it a positive. So being old school, I grabbed the tablet, I grabbed the pen, and I started to write. And what I wrote was a screenplay for a movie. And in the middle of writing the screenplay, because I was held up for I don't know how many weeks, in the middle of it, I stopped and I said, you know what? I have credit as an actor, but not as a writer. Let me just pause writing the screenplay. Let me write a short film and quickly get it out there to film festivals so at least I can maybe get credibility on IMDb as a writer as well as an actor. So I immediately stopped, and it took a couple of hours, and I wrote The Confession. It took just a couple of hours. And when I got done writing it, my wife was sitting next to me on the couch. I said, I want you to read this. I said, I just wrote it. It's a short film. It's not my screenplay I've been writing. It's just a short film. She goes, you wrote another movie? I'm like, it's just a short film. So she wrote it. She read it, and she said, you didn't just write this. I said, yeah, I did. She said, that's pretty good. So we ended up, once my foot healed, I produced it, played lead in it, and shot it out to film festivals, hoping that it would get accepted. If you get accepted into some really big film festivals, that's an accomplishment because films come from all over the world. And not only did it start getting accepted to all these major film festivals, but it started winning awards. And it won Best Short Film at the Georgia Short Film Festival in Atlanta, and it won Best Short Film at the Las Vegas Film Festival. And I was extremely happy about that. And then I ended up finishing writing my screenplay. It's not out there yet, so we're still trying to get funding for it and everything else, and that's a whole nother story. So
I say, when you figure out that funding thing, please let me know. Well, it's funny because I did the documentary last year, and I mostly self-funded that. I did get some funding for that, and then I'm working 2 documentaries now, and again, it's some funding, some self-funding. Like you said, you have to have a day job unless you're an A-lister. Because now once the film is out there and it's won awards, to your point, now you have credibility as an award-winning writer. And so, yeah. Boom, now I can present a script. So who's this guy? Who's this guy? He's an award-winning writer. Oh, okay. So go ahead, please.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. So it definitely added credibility as far as a writer. And The Confession, which is 6.5 minutes long, the reason why it only took a couple of hours, because frankly, the story itself was on the back of my mind for many years. I don't want to give away the story, but you saw the film, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's actually very good. And I do encourage folks. It's actually very good. There's a reason it won awards, Nick.
Yeah, you can actually pull it up on YouTube by typing in The Confession, Nick Ferraro.
And I'll put that in the description too, Nick, because I do want folks to take a look at it.
Okay, I appreciate it. So the reason why it took me a short time to write is because I tell the story in the movie of my nephew, and in real life, I was not my nephew, but it could have happened to me. And that was on my mind for many, many years. And I always wanted to somehow express it, somehow, warn people, or just, I don't know. It's hard to explain, but all of a sudden it was the right time, the right moment for me to put it on paper. And that was the result of The Confession.
No, I'll tell you, Nick, it's funny you say the way you say that. Sometimes I feel like a movie or a script or even a song, it's the right thing at the right time. Because I fell into that when I was filming, and even this year, it was like you think like, why am I doing this? Who's going to, and all of a sudden there's just something, you say, you know what, this is to what you just said. You think, no, this is right. And I think when you get that magic kind of timing down, what happens is then it just kind of flows and everything kind of falls into place and it naturally, and it's not forced. And I think that makes people connect to it more, and that's what makes success. How many people are out there writing films that just stink because people can't connect to it? Either it's badly produced, it's not a good story, it's poorly, poor acting, whatever it is. But there's some people just get, but when something comes and flows naturally, people say, yeah, that's it, that's good. And I think you kind of found that little rut and you kind of just said that at the right time, the right story, the right everything was there. And I think that's why it works.
Yeah, no, agreed. And actually, now going to the band that I formed now, Nick Ferraro and the All Stars, one of the members, Mike, I call him Mac. Mike and I, we were with the Fabulous Heartbreak Band throughout the entire '90s. We were together for over 10 years, and then I left the band. I think it was 2000 or 2001. It was 2001, I think, and so I really haven't been, other than doing my Elvis tribute, I really haven't been back with the band. Because when I was with the Heartbreak Band, yeah, we did an Elvis show, a Patsy Cline show, but we did dance music. Like, we were a show band. So I did music other than Elvis. And I always wanted to go back to that. And again, it's about waiting for the right time. And people are like, well, how do you know it's the right time? You just know. Like, your body tells you,
That's
you
right.
just know. And that's why, not this past February, but last February, 2024, is when I contacted Mike. I said, hey, Mike, we're not getting any younger. Let's get some musicians and let's do this, man. Let's do this again. And we quickly did. All professionals. It took us no time to get material. Great bunch of guys. Anyone that has been in a band will tell you that there's always drama. And I can tell you that there is zero drama with these guys. It's all about brotherhood. There's 7 of us. And we have a lot of fun. We do 60s, 70s, and 80s. And we are a high energy, one song after another, fun dance band. It's all about pleasing the crowd, getting the crowd going. And that's what's going on now. So,
It's funny you talk about drama and bands. And you think back to the decades of how many great bands broke up, and a lot of it is just ego and pride. Somebody thinks I'm better than the band, or you just have a conflict in the direct and everything. Instead of just people swallowing their pride, you've seen so many groups, and the lead singer, hey, they're here for me, I'm gone. And then the guy, it's kind of like, well, he's eating that too much. So that's a refreshing, because the better bands are the ones where people swallow their pride, work together. Look at the Rolling Stones. I mean, say what you will, but the guy's been out there for 60 years. And there's other bands that broke up after 3 or 4 or 5 years, a couple big hits, and you think, wonder what they could have done if they just stuck around for 10 more years. So that's actually kind of a funny, interesting note that you just made. Now, I do want to talk about Alto Nights. So that was another film that you recently just starred in, or had a big role in, I'll say.
yeah, so a buddy of mine who I was in a musical, actually, in Jersey, called, they call it gravy, we call it sauce. And I played the character Zio Vito. And I met a gentleman there, and we became friends. And then, that's what happens. You do a project, and you just somehow click with a certain actor, and you become friends. And then that's why a lot of times you see movies with the same actors in it. And that's because they're friends, and they look out for each other, and they let each other know what's going on, or, whatever the reason is. So same thing with me and a couple other actors. As a matter of fact, the actor that played the priest in the actor that played the priest in The Confession, I was with him in Backfire. So that's what I mean. You start building relationships. Anyway, So this guy called me and said, "Hey Nick," he said, "my agent gave me for an audition, but after I read it, I thought of you, and I think you would be much better at it." Now, who does that in this industry? Like hardly anyone. You know what I'm saying?
Right. No, it's a good person. Putting
Yeah,
the friendship aside, it's just a good person that would say, you know what, this one ain't for me. Because I'm guessing in this business, it's like anything some of these people can get, they're going to take.
exactly, exactly. So yeah, I gotta be careful. I gotta sing tonight, man. And we'll get to that in a second. But so he said, "Do you mind if I send your material to my agent?" I was like, "Yeah, Grayson, I appreciate it, man. You know." So he did. So the agent contacted me. He said, "Hey," he goes, "I have an audition for you. It's for a big movie. It's being filmed here in Ohio." He said, "There's a big star. I can't tell you who it is, but do the audition and send it to me because nowadays you don't go in person. You got to do it yourself. That's a whole nother thing." So he said, "Do the audition, send it to me, and if I like it, I'll send it in. And if I really like it, if you want, I could represent you." I'm like, "Sure." So he sent it. I did the audition. I sent it in, and I still have his voicemail. He called me to tell me that I got the part and that he wanted to represent me. So that's how I got the agent in Ohio. Now, unfortunately, a few years later, and I got to be pretty close with him, he passed away, unfortunately. Saddened. But anyway, that's how I got the role of the Out Till Nights. It was a principal role, and such a great experience. It was produced by Warner Brothers. All the scenes that I was in, I was with. I played the. It was a true story. If you haven't seen it yet, the Out Till Nights. It was just in theaters just a few months ago. Now it's in, I think, like Amazon or Paramount or whatever they are. And Robert De Niro stars in it. Robert De Niro actually plays two characters. It's a true story. He plays Vito Genovese and Frank Costello. And it's about those two characters from the 70s in the mob. And I play Carmine Galante, who at the time was the consigliere of the Joe Bonanno crime family. And Joe Bonanno was played by an actor, Lou Mastillo. Louis Mastillo, great actor, great guy. He was in all kinds of movies. He was in The Sopranos. He was the gardener in The Sopranos, Sal. That's Louis Mastillo. But he's known, but he's known for Mike and Molly. You know the TV show,
Yep.
Mike and Molly?
Yeah, because he's a Pittsburgh guy, by the way, Mike, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Lou plays Molly's mom's boyfriend.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I do remember now. In that show, yes. I remember him in The Sopranos.
Yeah, that's Louis Mastillo.
Oh.
And so he played Joe Bonanno. So because I played the consigliere and Carmine Galante, so we were in the scenes that I was in. We were in together and all. Great guy. So I had a principal role. I got filmed, I was there for 2 weeks in Ohio filming. I worked about 4 days of the 2 weeks. I was in maybe about 4 or 5 scenes. I had some lines, but as it happens, they shoot months worth to get an hour and a half,
Yep.
So most of the stuff gets left on the editing floor. Unfortunately, a lot of my stuff did. However, I did make a couple scenes and, of course got the credit and they paid me well for it. So, but it was just a great experience meeting just great guys. Was in the scene with Robert De Niro and just a great experience, man. It was, it was a lot of fun.
No, that's awesome. I mean, again, these are things that so many actors could go their whole career and never have that opportunity to perform with legendary actors. I always say you got to put, as funny as this will sound, this show, I put politics aside, whether you like him or hate him or not. At the end of the day, Robert De Niro is a legend. I've been watching him since the 70s, personally been watching him since the 70s. So he's been around a long time, and to have the opportunity to be in a film with him, it just must have been an awesome experience.
Yeah, it truly was. And just a real quick story, and you sort of touched on it. I mean, whether you like his politics or not, or whatever. I mean, I didn't know the guy at all, of course, And there was one scene where it was an outdoor scene. There was a lot of extras behind us dressed as mob guys, and there was like 6 or 8 principal guys. I was one of them with Louis Mastillo, and he was approaching us as Vito Genovese, and when he came in, there was a young actor who's supposed to run up and say, "Pa, the FBI's here," and we all take off. It's a true story. And the one time we did it, we shoot a scene multiple times, of course. And the one time we shot it, the kid came up. He's in his late teens or early 20s, and he just paused. He thought that the director, Barry Levinson, said cut, or the AD, the assistant director, but they didn't. But he thought they did, so he didn't say anything. And then they said cut, and we had to do it over. And he felt really bad, the kid. I mean, and everybody does it, right? I mean, you all make mistakes. But I've been on set where there's some pretty big actors where they don't like that because they just have big egos, whatever the thing is. And after they discussed what happened, they said, "Okay, reset," and then you reset and you do it again. Robert De Niro walked right over to the kid, put his arm around him, and said, "Don't worry about it, man. We all make mistakes. You're doing great. You're doing great." And I thought that was amazing. You know what I mean?
That's the stuff that won't make the news, and that's the real insight into the person. Because you said it. There'll be some actors that would have been chewing that kid's ass, and there are others that realize, hey, we're human. We all get up every morning. Nobody is better than anyone else. We all get up every morning. We put our pants on one leg at a time,
Yep.
And I think the people that never lose sight of that are the people that you want to be around.
Yep, exactly.
And that's always been my philosophy. Nick, what's next for you? You got a lot going on. You're not slowing down. What's next?
Well, I've actually, when I do things, I try and do it right. And I'm very passionate. I'm a passionate person. And when I started this band, I knew that my acting was going to be put aside. And so I actually had to turn down a movie. I turned down 2 different things in the last year and a half just because I couldn't do it, with the band and everything. So right now tonight we're playing at the Clarion County Fair. And we play in the tri-state area of Pennsylvania, Jersey, Delaware, that area. We'll be at the Jersey Shore in September. We're at the Bloomsburg State Fair, which is one of the biggest fairs in the state of PA. We play at casinos, things like that. But I do want to have my screenplay produced. And we did shoot 3 days worth, what they call a sizzle, to try and promote getting investors for my screenplay. And in the sizzle, I became very good friends with Lou Martini Jr. Lou is a great guy. He was on The Sopranos, season 6. Lou, he was there like 4 episodes. Lou's been all over the TV and movies. And Ronnie Marmo was in it as well. Ronnie was in General Hospital from way back when. And he's been in so many, he was just recently did a guest appearance on Ghost, the TV show Ghost. And anyway, so I had some real good actors doing the sizzle for me. It was 3 days worth. We shot it in Philly. And the sizzle's about 2 minutes long, and it's to promote the movie, which I called Mob Sense. Mob Sense, the screenplay, is a drama comedy. Basically, 2 brothers that are in the mob, and they're sort of screw-ups. And the mob wants to kill them, but their uncle, who's played by Lou Martini Jr., sort of saves them and cuts a deal that if they leave New York and never come back, that the mob will give them a pass. But when they leave New York and then come back, because one of the brothers found out that he has a son that he never knew, so he had to go back, and his wife, who left him, not because she didn't love him, but because she was pregnant, she didn't want to raise a son in that environment. So anyway, so it's a love story, it's comedy, it's drama, It's a love story between the two brothers. It's a love story between one of the brothers and his ex-wife, who they get back together, and his son. The love story between him and his son. It's really good. I know I wrote it, but I think
Well, I
it's
like
really
the plot.
good.
I'll be honest, I kind of like the plot.
Yeah.
Because at least you give him a legitimate reason to come back. It's almost like a change of heart. You're right. I'm going to go see my kid. I kind of like that.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's a project, and another project I'm working on with my buddy Grayson, who I mentioned. And that's a whole nother story. We're trying to do a documentary. We have a sizzle for that, where, bottom line, a gentleman who I knew had stage 4 cancer. He had 8 tumors in his kidneys. And he had a sign from God, and we have proof. And after they took out the one tumor, he was doing therapy, and then he needed to go back, and they were going to take out the rest. And when they went back to take out the rest, there was no tumors. They were completely gone.
Wow.
And like there wasn't even a sign that there was even there. Like it was like it wasn't even gone. Like it was gone.
Let me ask you. You know what? I'm gonna stop you because I'm gonna ask you a question. You mentioned a sign from God, and you believe that. Are you a man of faith?
I am.
Well, me too. And I'm not afraid of that. I'm not afraid to say that. Because I make a leap of faith here then that there was some intense praying for this person that occurred, and that this person was a person of faith, or was it the people around him, or what do you think?
No, he's a tremendous person of faith. He dedicates his life to the Catholic Church and everything. And he, one night when he found out he had these tumors or whatever, he was on his back porch at home, and he didn't even tell his wife yet of what the cardio or whoever it was, the specialist, told him what was going on. And he looked up, and it was a full moon, and he saw a cross appearing on the moon. So he quickly went next door to his neighbor. It was like 10 o'clock at night, and she came to the door. He's like, "Please, I just want you to look at the moon. Tell me what you see." And she said, "It looks like a cross on the moon." She saw it. So then he ran into the house and woke up his wife. And then when they came back out, the cross was gone. And he didn't say anything. He didn't even tell her there was a cross. He just said, "Honey, I want you to look at this moon. It's beautiful." So she literally got out of bed, and she looks at the moon and goes, "You mean you woke me up just for a full moon?" And she went back to bed. She didn't see it. So
But he's got a witness. That's the news. He's got a witness.
Yeah. But he took a couple of pictures.
Oh.
And then he went to sleep. The next morning, his wife went to work. The neighbors came over and said, "Hey, let's go to breakfast." So they went to breakfast, and he looked at the pictures for like the first time, and he noticed above the moon, around 11 o'clock, above the moon, there was a smear or something. He thought it was like a thumbprint. And like when he rubbed it, you know how you can make a picture bigger, right?
Right.
When you take a picture.
You can zoom in, right?
You can zoom in and out. So he opened it up, and as clear as day, that smear, when he opened it up, was the face of Jesus Christ.
Wow.
And I have the picture, and it's a face of Christ with the thorns around his head, clear as day. And he then ran to a friend of his who was the cardinal, I think, or the bishop, I can't remember, of the Archdiocese of Harrisburg. And he showed the picture to that person, and I think it was the bishop, whoever it was, and said, "You've been blessed by God. He has shown his face to you. You know, don't worry about what you're going through. And God's not, God, if God wants to heal you, he will heal you." And then things happened where then they took out the one tumor, like I said, and then he went to Johns Hopkins, whatever it's called, in Maryland. And that's where he was going for therapy. And then when he went there to take the other tumors out, they had to look and see first before they operated. He was there ready to get operated on. And then he woke up after the anesthesia, and he noticed he didn't get operated on. And the surgeon walked in and said, "Do you believe in miracles?" He's like, "Yeah." He said, "Well, when I first looked before I opened you up, there was nothing there for me to do anything." He goes, "You're completely healed." And the one spot, like the one tumor they took out, there was always like this huge scar there, and they have pictures of it, of this huge scar. When the surgeon looked at it, it was just a little point. Like you could barely even notice that there was even surgery of the first tumor that they took out, the only tumor they took out. That completely just about disappeared.
Wow.
And he's been.
That's
So
incredible.
he went from stage 4 cancer with all these tumors to nothing.
By the way, I do another podcast with a friend of mine, Chris Gonzalez. It's called the Unlikely Catholic Podcast. And guess what, Nick? You're going to get invited. We're going to have an episode called Miracles, because I always, it's one of these, and I'll go back. And by the way, folks that are listening, if you're not religious or don't care, you can tune out now. But I'm going to ask Nick this question because, again, I'm not afraid of my faith. So I'm going to ask you something, though. You go back even 2,000 years ago, and Jesus Christ is performing miracles, and still people didn't believe. Miracles are something that have continued to occur over 2,000 years, and yet people go, they still doubt. Just as a curious George, because I'm thinking this is something you're going to address in the documentary, and I can't wait till this one comes out. Why do you think people would look at that and doubt that, though?
Well, first off, I hope it gets released because, God, we need it. We need something like this. And again,
listen, if I have to kick in money, I'll tell you right now, I will help you. But we'll talk offline on this one because I'm doing 2 documentaries right now, and one of them is on Saint Clement, one of the early church fathers. So you and I can have an offline conversation about a way ahead, because this one is also something that just really interests me, and even if it's just throwing a few bucks into the hat. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've already invested $20,000 in this whole thing because we actually took a few days and we filmed it. We actually went after that moment when the surgeon said, "Do you believe in miracles?" And he goes, "Go home. You're healed. There's nothing for me to do here." And then Luis, and that's his name, my friend who had this done, Luis said, even him, as strong of a faith he is, said, I don't believe it. Like, are you sure? You're sure? And the surgeon's like, yeah. And Luis was the one that said, I need to come back maybe like 6 months from now. Look at it again. Make sure. So that's what they did. So they scheduled for him to come back. So when he went back there, we filmed it. We filmed we documented us leaving, driving to Maryland, going there. And we actually have not the surgeon, but one of the specialists on film talking about it.
Wow.
So we shot a couple days. So anyway, that
but it's funny because it is something it isn't something, as crazy as this sounds. Even if you were going through it, you would still be stupefied. Like, I can understand that, but you can't deny what happened. You have witnesses. You have the patient. You have the doctors, and they're all going, I don't know, something happened.
People will still not believe.
Well, that's right.
Especially now, Steve, with the AI and like we have that picture, and of course people are gonna be like, it's fake. It was generated by a computer. You know what I mean? Like, and it wasn't. Like, I know for a fact. Like,
well, no matter what, you have a doctor telling you, but you have a doctor and a diagnosis, and you've had a surgery, and everything's telling you, and you have early medical reports, and you have post-medical reports. So it don't matter what you think. I'm telling you what it is.
Yeah. Now, the surgeon that was agreed to come, or not the surgeon, I think he is a surgeon. I can't remember now because it was like over a year, I think, when we filmed it. He had to be careful what he said. And that's the only thing. Like, he acknowledged the fact that, yep, he had it and it's gone. He did have therapy. It was like some, not chemo, but it was something that was like state of the art or whatever you call it. And he said, he had to say, well, I guess medically what he went through could have gotten rid of him. unlikely, but you know what I mean? Like
Right.
he had to, but he did confirm that, yeah, he had him and now he doesn't. Like that he can confirm,
Interesting.
This has been a passion of mine as well, even more so than my screenplay, because to me, this is going to change people's lives.
Well,
and I
that's
think
right.
we need
You're bringing people to the faith. And
Yeah.
sometimes they have to be the doubting Thomas that touches the wounds to believe. Okay, I'm going to show you the wounds. And, and now they come to believe. If that's what it takes, that's what it takes.
Well,
All right.
listen, Steve, I hate to cut you off.
No,
man,
you're
but
cutting. I'm
I
cutting you
ready
off,
for-
buddy. You're out of here. No, thanks, Nick. Thanks for coming on. And I'll give you the last word. But folks, I'm going to put a lot of Nick's information down in the description so you can reach out, follow him. But Nick, what are your final thoughts before I hang up on you?
Well, first off, if you're anywhere near Clarion County here in Pennsylvania, they have a great fair. We'll be playing tonight, 6 o'clock. 6 to 7:30 is our first show. We're going to take a half-hour break, and then we're going to play 8 to 9:30 of some great 60s, 70s, and 80s, rockin', Motown, little disco, fun, sing-along, high-energy music, man. So come on out. We'll be Nick Ferraro and the All-Stars. You come to our Facebook page, you can see where we're playing at. And, yeah, man, just I appreciate you, Steve. And, anyone out there that wants to invest, we got some great projects as well to talk about. But, yeah, man, it's been a lot of fun, Steve. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. God bless, and we'll talk to you soon. I am going to talk to you soon, but I'm going to hang up on you because I know you're busy and you got to go. Thanks, folks, for tuning in, and have a wonderful week, and I'll be back next week, God willing, so take care.